morning, and
Glad to meet you today.
glad to meet you
It's
too.
a beautiful Sunday morning. I just can't wait to hear about you and what you do.
I am Crispus Memaho, environment and climate justice activist, the founder of a youth community group. We do climate education in communities to identify people that are affected by climate disasters such as floods, landslides. How about you, Andrew?
Basically, I'm also the founder of the Generation Foundation, which is about young children and youth. Street connected children living in impoverished communities around Uganda. We have actually started out with street connected children, where I am actually tutor, I know their language, I know their communities, I know their lives. So basically, reach out to them. And also engage in areas of security because these are people that grow in the enterprise. So reach out to them in those areas so that they can be aware of what it is and actually do the responsible life.
Okay, so tell us a brief story about Creative Foundation, Creative Generation Foundation. How did you start? Where the passion?
The creative generation, we started from way back, but of course you come into you just as an organization later on. So we basically started actually working with children even before because me as the founder of other organizations I work with different groups, even just church groups to reach out to children. Later on actually in the local so we decided you guys you can actually start this up. We registered and then started working officially with the communities, with the authorities. It's not just about passion. It's my life. It's my everyday life because everyone goes through the streets. We meet children everywhere. We meet young people doing different things, trying to work to get some money, going to school. They have challenges. So it's not just about passion. These are things we live with every day. If it was passion, I would wake up and be like, I made some money. I think I should go out and help some people.
That's amazing.
So about yourself, you do things with environmental protection, climate change. What made you identify that maybe you should actually do something about the environment?
Actually, a brief story about how we start. We started as 7 friends, and we grew up together in the ghettos of Kakajo, it is somewhere in Kampala. And we came to realize we had a problem of plastic pollution and poor waste management in our area, and we wanted to at first create a platform of teaching people how they can manage their waste, end plastic pollution that is blocking the drainage system in the ghettos. So that's how we started. But along the way, we saw that actually our call was in line with climate change, and we decided to go with it.
So it means at first you are not into climate change and environmental protection. What are those things you are doing that are related to that later on we decided now climate change is our thing?
So you realize that poor waste management is a thing that relates to all these problems with climate change. So at first we wanted just to improve the sanitation of our locality, the hygiene of where we come from. And then before we knew, plastic pollution was one of the factors causing climate change. And we decided, why are we limiting ourselves in this small area? Why can't we go even far? And that's how we started, expanding our work. And then later on, we saw that it was actually a problem. Climate change was causing problems to people. Some were actually being internally displaced. So they needed our help. And we started by giving relief support from our friends, organizing like fundraisers, and we reach out to people that are affected by floods. So before we knew, it became our work, and we had to adapt to our.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you have to mention some of us are actually affected by climate change that we do not know.
Exactly.
Oh,
So
I think you're doing something great because the way you think about something that some of us don't think about. Like for us, we just complain about the sun, about the rain, about the floods in our city.
exactly.
So we don't focus on actually what is actually causing that. I think it's really interesting. So I basically work with children, and it will be something actually to teach children to also think about the environment. And that is how we are having this conversation to know how maybe I can borrow a bit from you and include it this side. So basically, how do you teach children or these young people to also think about environmental protection?
Actually, our youth has an umbrella project called Project Big Picture Uganda, and we're centering ourselves in education, in the education of the kids, especially from
Like mainstream education.
from broken families, like disadvantaged families. We can keep them in school, but also we still environmentally, like to be conscious when they're still young. They can be agents of change in the communities where we cannot reach. Or even, like when you are at school, sometimes we tell stories of what we know. We used to have stories about films and soccer. So if kids could tell like environmental stories, like behavior, like proper behavior in their peers, I think that is one of the agents of change that we want to see. So, Andrew, I want to ask you about Creative Foundation, like, Creative Generation.
Yeah.
Since you started, what are the challenges that you faced as an emerging platform trying to bring this amazing change in the society we live in? What are some of the challenges? And please, could you share us how you've foregone them, or even how you're trying to?
So Creative Generation Foundation, even just by the name, we are young people. We are a generation that has actually been exposed to many things. When people that came before us talk about their youthful stage, it's not easy for us to even understand it because what they're working on is very different from what we're doing. So we thought about us being a generation that is creative, a people that can think outside the box because of what we're exposed to. Because there are many things that we can do to make change in society. So creative generation identified as a gap, one in education, as a gap in actually child protection, whereby some children actually do not have parental care. They could belong to a family, but they're actually not getting the care and attention from their caretakers or even their real parents. We started working with street children because these are end results of what happens back home. It's violence, it's poverty. So we thought about doing something that can change their story because they did not wish to end up on the streets. No one wakes up and they're like, okay, there are those at a certain age, you're like, I need to maybe adventure and find out what happens in this life. Maybe the kids who are independent, they can do things on their own. But they get out to that world and realize it's actually hard. It's really hard to actually survive on the streets. If you're not into crime, then you're actually doing a lot of hard work to even get something to eat. So we realized we could actually do something to empower these children. Our creativity, even within our main creative generation, we decided to do something related to fine art. I'm an artist myself. I paint, I do some crafts. So I was like, with what I have, I can also call upon other people that have something they can pass on to these children to change their story, maybe empower them. So mentorship was our major thing. Teach something to these children, let them bring out their creativity, identify their passions, identify their talent. There are those who have been on the streets for a long time, and it's not easy to take them back to school. If someone left school for 5 years, they are maybe in P3, they're not supposed to be in senior 2. You can't tell them at your age, let me take you back to P3.
Yeah.
So you think about something that is technical, something that is vocational, that you can teach them. So we realize art, they love color, they love creating funny things, interesting things. It attracts them. So we're like, this is what we can use to bring them together, because working with children is hard. You must have the rapport, you must have the language, you must create the relationship. So we have to think about art and some of these events related to art to see how we can bring them together, and then start on actually profiling them. After you profile them, you know their story. You actually don't get their real name at the first meeting. Then later on, when you mean something good, they're like, I can get something from this person. They actually reveal their real name. So after doing all that, you can use the art they make, you can finish it well, you can package it well, write a story behind the artwork. You could actually sell that artwork to take that child back to school and actually change their life.
Okay. So I want to dive into like how old is creative generation?
Creative generation, like, it's not old. It's not really old, because we had a different approach before, but we're actually not an interested entity. Because some of these processes, like I've told you, for me, it's not actually passion. Like someone can wake up and be like, I want to do something. It's life. So you realize you cannot date back when this thing started, because it could be a moment where you came up with a team, like, you guys, let's do this, let's work on this. Maybe we can remember that. But if we are to date back to maybe the dates, we are not even 3 years old. Yeah. That's good. So how's your journey with other youth? How old is it, and what areas are you working in?
Yeah, so to be quite honest, about you, like officially we registered in around June 2020. That was after lockdown.
Within the lockdown.
Yeah, within lockdown. But Abayut starts from way back. Actually, one of you, or most of the questions I get, what is Abayut? But Abayut is a slang, a ghetto slang. Youth means youth. So when you're one, you're called youth. But when you're many, you're called Abayut. And this was a slang used by us. So way back, from when we are growing up, but we had all these, I can call them like similarities. We had this common thing, like, because all of us, I think we've all graduated from university. That shows you how we've been like, we have all passion of, not being what they call it all, but, living like not to the expectation of other people, but ourselves. So our youth starts from way back, but then this whole work we're doing, I think it is June 2020, and we're still rolling.
It's interesting. So, you forgive me, I'll go a bit personal. Where did you pick it up and you're like, I think within me, it's something I can do to make change in society? Before you even get to a certain level, talk to your friends, interact with the group, and like, you can make this happen. You might have started alone, or have been within.
I think, to be quite honest, I've and I've done my diploma in clinical medicine. So I've always wanted to, to be helpful in the society in that way. And this is just maybe a revelation of myself, just on my journey. But I always wanted to, to touch this society. And from my background of education, it is clinical medicine and community health. And for me, there's no health without, there's no individual health without public health or community health. And when we talk about environmental protection, that is concerning health. So I'm actually doing my role as a healthy worker, but on a community level.
I think this conversation can go on and on and on. I think we shall get more time and share maybe. So what I want to get out maybe is what are you contributing to society at the moment, even with limitations that came up because of COVID?
At the moment, we are using our platforms and people like our friends to to speak out what is happening in Uganda, to show the world that we have a problem and we need to address it, but not passively in active way. We've been moving places, planting trees, doing climate education in schools, and also helping these people that are affected by landslides and intercessions. We have a project that is ongoing. But also, I think waking up and you be like, I stand for this. I think that is people that do. So I also want to ask you this conversation, and this is concerning current affairs. Recently, I saw KCCA grab kids from the streets, forcefully, to take them to is it in northern eastern Uganda, Karamoja, Napak district to be specific. And I thought it was a nice initiative. But do you think that was right of KCC to grab kids the way they grabbed
them? It wasn't, the approach wasn't really nice. I remember I was approached by one of the media houses and they were like asking me about, because I've worked with these children. Yeah, asked me to say something about and it was actually on Twitter and people were like, my statement was, I was like, we were impressed by the what? By the initiative. Now, treat kids has become an issue, yeah, but we were not amused. Because there are problems that push these children to come to the streets. There are issues that cause them to come to the streets. There is poverty, there is violence at home. The family are separated, dad and mom are not together anymore, they are living with the grandma. So, taking them back to the community, and you have not solved the problem back in the community, you're not doing much. They will actually end up coming back to the streets. And they actually changed the tactics to what surviving. So the approach wasn't really nice, and we actually believed organizations and teams like Creative Generation that work with street children should have been approached and maybe have a discussion on how we can actually tackle this. How do we approach these kids? How do we make change by actually rounding them up, talking to them, rehabilitating them, and actually tap into the story and identify the problems that led them to come to the streets, and then make a change so that they can go back and settle in the community.
I want to come in there. I'm asking this, and it is so much personal because I've seen it happen for a long time. What do you think, or what is your take on organizations, charity organizations, support organizations that use vulnerability as a way of helping them? To be like, maybe to make you understand it even better. I've seen photos of kids naked, unkept, that are taken without consent, and they are on covers of big organizations, WHO, what is your take? How should people that are vulnerable in this situation be helped, but without exposing their vulnerability out there?
So briefly, I can say the government needs to wake up this bit, because they need to monitor these organizations that are working with children, because children sometimes don't consent to these pictures, to the information being shared. But I believe that being taken advantage of because they don't have a voice, they don't have someone to represent them. But if someone represents them and has a voice on their behalf, I think they will better be heard, and then it can make a change. Basically, it's about them being represented.
It was nice chatting with you, and
thank you very much, Crispus.